Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here on Monday, October 14th. We're going to have our call to order, please.
Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Duncan, do you please concur?
Yes, thank you. Dear Lord, please allow us tonight to make decisions for the city with a clear mind and a clear heart. In your name we pray.
Ms. Harmony, roll call, please.
Mr. Lawson?
Present.
Mr. Booth? Mr. Clement? Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Here.
Mr. Flower? Mr. Taylor?
Here. Motion to excuse Mr. Clement, Mr. Booth, and Mr. Flowers from tonight's meeting. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
We'll have the reading of the minutes from the last regular meeting and also the August 21st special.
It's approved.
Yeah, just approve. Motion to, has everyone reviewed it? Okay. Motion to adopt. Second.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Okay, so we made a motion to move, we talked about it before, so a motion to move the citizens' comments and to amend the agenda to after the city law director update.
Is that okay with everybody? We're gonna go through the business, and then if you folks would like to talk about something, that's when it's gonna happen. We're gonna change it around a little bit, so you'll know what we're doing right now, rather than we're gonna tell us what, or we're gonna tell you what we're doing, and have tiddlywinks, you've already made your comments. So tonight you get your time, okay?
So that there's a motion there, I'll second it.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Madam Vice President, I'd also like to amend the agenda to move business and organizational comments later in the meeting. If possible, Mr. Rose is at the Trunk or Treat and Trimble this evening, and he said that he would be running late. Was hoping to still be able to speak.
I'll second that. Okay, we got anybody here with any, I'm sorry,
I need a roll call.
I apologize. Sorry, the second time is scared to hell.
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Committee discussions, anyone here tonight?
I think Williams was the only one that met since the last meeting. I was there, but as if I remember, some of the legislation is on there for
Right.
tonight. I know that Taylor had a resolution that of a policy change within the office that the auditor was requesting. I think what else was discussed? It was also the first read. It was the preliminary reading of the 2025 budget. Yeah, it was actually went pretty well. There'll be some more changes, but I think honestly we'll be able to have it finalized probably by the end of the first meeting in November. So it looked like it was moving along pretty smoothly. So
Thank you. Chief, do you have anything to say?
As far as committee updates?
Police, yeah.
Oh, for police, yeah, I've got my stats for last month. So for the month of September, we had 342 calls for service, made 58 traffic stops, issued 25 citations, investigated 5 traffic crashes, made 22 criminal arrests and 9 warrant arrests.
Thank you, sir. Anyone wish to speak with the chief about anything? Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if he keeps records of overdose, because we have a reputation for being a drug town. And
Yeah, I can track those. I don't give them my reports, but they have, in the last 3 years since I've been here, they're definitely down. So that's been pretty good.
But at this time, I don't have any numbers, is that
No, I don't
correct?
have to.
Okay. Maybe next time at the meeting, you can have something for us?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
It's few and far between now and then.
Okay, now we're gonna go to the city law director, please.
Sure, so, just wanted to give a little bit of an update, on some of the stuff I mentioned at the special council meeting a week ago. There had been the question posed to me about, since the Board of Elections added the ballot initiative, in September, whether there were going to be any costs assessed to the city as a result of that. I did pose the question to the Board of Elections, since today's a holiday, I still haven't gotten an answer back. I was anticipating on following up today, and I remember that they're actually out today. But I don't, based on the information provided to me, there's no indication that there will be any additional costs to the city. In fact, adding the language did not, from what I understand from the Board of Elections, actually lead to any direct increase in costs to them. The reason for that was the day that they were reprogramming the voting machine. Of course, now everything's done through the computerized machines and programming rather than actually so much physically printing the ballots. The same day that the machines were reprogrammed to add the Nelsonville ballot measure, they already had their tech come in to reprogram the machines for an unrelated matter. So in other words, his service call was already pre-scheduled for things unrelated to Nelsonville. So based off of that, I'm anticipating that the Board of Elections is going to give us the final decision, the final answer that there were no additional costs to assess to the city for that. The other thing that I just wanted to kind of follow up on in terms of my report from last month, by the way, the Athens County Independent had a follow-up story late last week on the charter initiative. I would refer people to that story. I think they did a pretty good job. For example, let me just kind of use this example. The ballot initiative itself, the language says, oh, there's a 1-year transition period. Well, as the Independent's reporting pointing out, it's actually 9 months. It can't be a year. The reason for that is everything's going to have to be done before August, because August of next year is when people would have to, who want to run for city office, have to submit their nominating petitions. Well, how are they going to know what office to submit those for? Those are due in August. So basically, the transition is going to get compressed to 9 months. Now, here's where this really gets problematic. The election ballot has, and I'm just quoting the language, the very last language from the ballot says, shall the proposed ordinance to abolish charter and return to the same form of government as it had prior be adopted. Now, that specific language was added at the insistence of the Secretary of State to ensure compliance with state law. So that was not added by us. We didn't ask for that. We didn't have any input on that. That's what the Secretary of State insisted be added. Here's the problem. An ordinance can't abolish the charter. An ordinance, whether it's passed by initiative or passed by council, is ineffective legally to abolish the city charter. So the problem is this language that the Secretary of State included presents a post-election legal problem. And what that means is the state of Ohio has certain legal authorities by which they could sue the city after the election to have this ballot measure declared to be invalid. Here's the problem. They won't do that the day after the election. If they do it, it will be months later. Think about the Athens plastic bag case. It took them months to file that lawsuit after Athens passed it. The same thing would happen here. So we're talking, if the state of Ohio does this, and again, I'm not the Attorney General's office, so I can't definitively tell you what they will or will not do. But what I can do is tell you what my legal analysis concerns me in terms of the risks to the city. And that's, if the state of Ohio does it, it would likely be in April. Well, that's halfway through the effective transition period. If they file it, they're going to ask the judge to pause the transition period. In other words, the transition period will be put on a judicial hold until that case is resolved. And the problem is, that's a case that would, if the state files it against the city, that case will take 3 years because it'll have to go to the trial court, it will go to the appellate court, and it's going to be a case that the Supreme Court has to have, because that case has never been decided by the Ohio Supreme Court. So we're talking a 3-year transition period mandated by the court. This is the risk. Right. And what that means is, even if at the end of the day, the Ohio Supreme Court upholds the ballot measure, it's going to be years after the ballot measure's 1-year transition period. So in other words, it won't be 2025 when the transitional elections will be held. It's probably actually going to be 2027. In terms of just how long it will take the Supreme Court to sort through some of these issues. And that's what I was trying to get at. But as I was studying the ballot language and getting the information that yes, in fact, the Secretary of State, because when I saw it, I was like, where did this language come from? And so it took some investigation to find out that, in fact, it came from the Secretary of State, mandated by the Secretary. We didn't have any, the city was not asked, I was not called. The city didn't suggest that language, it was a system mandated by the Secretary of State. And so that gives me deep concern about untangling these issues. And I just wanted to be transparent both to council and to the public about those concerns, because like I said, that case has never been decided by the Ohio Supreme Court. This would be the first case. And they're not going to be in any rush because they want to get it right, because they're like, well, we better get it right the first time because we don't want it to come up again. And so the problem, of course, is then it throws the public and the city basically into an uncertainty of like, well, we'd like to just know what the rules are so that then council can do whatever it needs to do so that the public understands what's going on. But with a judicially mandated pause on that transition, it's going to, of course, people are going to be confused and wondering what's going on, because council won't have a say in whether the judge mandates that pause or not. It's just going to be the court is going to say that. And if the state of Ohio files that lawsuit, they might not even give us a chance to say something before they get that pause.
Could you explain to the audience, please, about the lawsuits that we have not been able to give an answer to what has been said by the other side until just recently?
That's correct. So we filed about 2 weeks ago, we filed our first merits brief in the Court of Appeals, the city did. And that was the first time that we had actually been permitted a full opportunity to explain the whole legal position and the ins and outs, because it's very complicated. I mean, I've had conversations with other lawyers. I've had conversations with multiple reporters who call me trying to say, Jonathan, can you explain what's going on in this case? So I've talked to WAB, I've talked to the Independent, I've talked to NBC4 in Columbus, and each one of them goes, hey, I'm really confused. And I always tell them, well, you're in the same boat as me. I'm a little confused too, because this is a very tricky issue of law. And like I said, because the Supreme Court's never weighed in, there's very little guidance for it. And so, but I think the city's had for years and consistently had the correct view on the proper procedures for this. But the problem is, it's very complicated. And if the lawyers are trying to figure out, spending hours trying to sort through some of these things to be able to explain it, how much more difficult is it for everyone else?
I just wanted to make sure that the audience knew that we had no control over it whatsoever. The judge blocked us.
And the last thing I will say, so the last brief for the city is going to be filed tomorrow in the case. And because the Court of Appeals ordered expedited briefing, we're going to ask that the court order oral arguments on October 24th. That's the last opportunity before the election, because we'd like to be able to get the Court of Appeals final ruling before the election to, again, provide some clarity and some answers to these questions, because at this point in the litigation, more questions are getting raised than they are getting answered. And again, I can't go into all of those details publicly at this point because the case remains pending. But the problem is, with all of the procedural irregularities and just kind of the fact that the city was not afforded an opportunity to fully present its case, more questions have arisen during the case than have been answered. More problems have arisen than have been solved. And we're just hopeful that we've finally gotten the opportunity on behalf of the city to articulate what the law really means. We're hopeful that the courts can finally provide that clarity. So anyway, I can provide to council a update after tomorrow, since that brief, the Reminger Council and I actually had an extensive call today, working through the brief, and that will be finalized and filed tomorrow.
In the last meeting, Mr. Brooks asked you 3 questions. Do you have the answers for that?
So the first one was the Board of Elections question, which I touched on. The other 2 dealt with, the Mr. Hunter, Mr. Gary Hunter
yes.
lawsuit. Just again, to remind the public, I'm recused from that case. However, I can comment about what's on the public docket. The parties had asked the court to impose a 2-month pause on that litigation. Mr. Hunter has been having some health issues, and I would encourage council and members of the public, please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. It evidently required hospitalization. And what that means is, as you know, difficult health issues don't necessarily solve themselves in 2 months. It could be ongoing, and that lawsuit could wind up being on an extended pause. And again, please leave him in your thoughts and prayers at this time. I do think it would be appropriate for council, again, since I'm recused, that's all that I know. I think it would be appropriate for council to summon the Reminger attorneys at a future council meeting just to give an update, because they would know those things. So that's the second question. The third question is relating to the city manager investigation. I'm also recused from that. I don't have an update. I believe Mr. Tolliver was reaching out to the special counsel, but those questions would have to be referred to him. And again, I can't comment on that because I don't know.
So again, council has nothing to do with this. You know, we're not allowed to say anything. I know everyone asks, but we have been told to keep your big mouth shut. So there's nothing to tell you, even if we could open our mouth. Okay, I'll shut up.
Madam President, Vice President, that's all that I have.
Okay then. Now we're going to do citizens' comments. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think you had your hand up first, Ms. LaRue.
Thank you. I'm quick.
Well, I took Fred, take your time.
Now, these are comments only. We cannot answer questions.
Joanne LaRue.
Okay, wait a minute.
You can certainly pose a question. It's just it would have to be answered at a later time. Okay.
First of all, thank you for something I didn't know I was going to thank you for, because this whole thing legally, you need to know that there is no answer right now. Secondly, this is an issue, the stop signs in the square. There are a couple times I've been going on the straight path and people haven't paid attention to the stop signs. And one of the stop signs, which is down by the bank, sits from me to Tony away, and you've got a big truck parked there, you can't see it.
That's true.
But then, when they come out in front of my daughter who's driving, I really get upset. We need to do something. Maybe we have to go back to four-way stops on that. I don't know what the answer is, but I would rather not see a bad accident happen there. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Tolliver, for your police report. For the last 3 meetings, I've asked for a code enforcement report, and I still don't see. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, please step up. Podium. I'm sorry, gentleman in the back had his hand up.
You can go ahead if you want to.
I won't be sure.
I'm gonna give you 3 minutes.
You need to hear this.
3 minutes, and I will cut you off at 3 minutes.
If I put something on this, is it gonna affect it?
I can set it off the keyboard off on the chair. Okay, it's doing something, so yeah.
Did I hit something?
I got it.
She has me a lot more to say, but. Thank you. Yeah, excuse me, my name is Sue Powell, and I'm on East Washington Street in Nelsonville. I'm sorry everybody is not here. I did have Stuart Brooks's 3 questions, but I think you have answered them, and he's going to be watching. He had a conflict tonight. I was originally going to have sort of a planned comments, and I decided that I wasn't going to talk. And then tonight I've decided for the last few hours I am going to talk. First of all, I want you to know where I stand on this conversion of charter to statutory. I'm against it. I've been against it since it came out. I don't think our problem is the type of government we're running. But I have to tell you, I can't get anybody in town to listen to me. This could very well pass. And I think the reason that there's a couple reasons, but last meeting, I thought it was a good meeting. I learned a lot from Mr. Rowe. I learned a lot, and you confirmed a lot that I remembered or I knew from my past. Most people took it as a campaign speech that you are against the switchover. I didn't look at it as that. So you can see I can be a little strange from the general public. The other thing that I'm against, or reason I'm against it, is I don't think you ever go back. You know, wouldn't it be, I would love to go back 30 years and be 30 years younger. But you can't do that. And it's not gonna go back and be the same. The committee, and I like all of them, I respect all of them, I respect what they're saying, but they're selling it on the fact that our sweet little town 30 years ago, wouldn't you love to go back to that? Go back to the mayor, go back to, and they named the mayors. All these people are deceased. So it's not going to rejuvenate and be the same. Now, maybe I feel that way because Taylor spoke at the meeting, and he and I know what it is to run the back room daily, every transaction, and what we could miss, what we may not get. You know, there was confusion over the city manager a while back, a year or so ago. We lost the grant. We will lose grants, I'm almost certain, during this transition because they won't know and the state won't know what we're doing. I'm very concerned about what could happen to our city. The other thing is, I think, and my parents always told me this, it's never the same when you go back. You can't, recreate where you left from. I came back primarily because I had family issues. I loved Florida. I was in Florida for 20-some years. I thought, I'm going back. No, you can't do that. And I remember what they told me and what they said. But with that out, and I've tried to tell a lot of people that when you're solving a problem, there's the symptom of a problem and there's the problem. And if you don't work on, and solve the symptoms to the problem, you'll never solve the problem. It's just going to come up again. And I think some of the issues that we're having today could very well come up under a statutory form of government. Now, somebody said, and I've talked to people in the committee, I've talked to people in town, I've talked to people who believe what I believe, and I've talked to people who don't believe what I believe. But somebody said to me, well, one thing they said, we don't know what the problem is, but it's not working. Heard that more than once. Second of all, they said corruption would be eliminated because we go to statutory form of government, no more corruption. And I said, let's figure that out because corruption isn't by the type of government you have. Corruption is by the people. And I hate to hit this, but the problem is council. The problem is the mistakes and the decisions, and we have a 4-member clique. And if you want me to go through some of the issues, I will. Clear back to March 11th, when there was the decision on who was on council and who wasn't. I can outline that. I've sent a 5-page timeline to the attorneys in Columbus concerning for the Supreme Court from March 11th to your letter of April 8th. You said last week, the charter is our law, and that's how I was always taught. The charter is the law. But you put Tony on with 3 votes, and the charter says a majority of council. Now, I'm not going to try to relive all of that, but that was you people are putting on council and taking people off council that you want off or you don't like. The residents are saying, I have voted for these people, and the city manager takes them off. Well, the city manager doesn't have that control, but you gave him that control this last time because he wanted Rita kept from even entering the building.
Okay, now, hold on, let's not go into names and cetera, all right? I'm being very, very with you, so please don't go there. That's all I'm asking is.
Well,
please
Rita
do
and I
not-
are part of the
please
lawsuit.
do not- I know you are, that's the reason you should not be talking about it.
Madam Vice President, should we ask the audience if there's any objections to her continuing since she's already over the 3 minutes?
I think that's
Well, yeah.
exclusively up to council, so council could vote to do that, but it would require a motion.
I'm just trying to be fair. I'm just trying to be fair to other people that may want to speak still, so.
Okay.
Well, there's gonna be people out here that knew I was going to speak. There were people
Which is
out there
fine.
that
I'm not
wanted to
asking
speak.
that. I'm just asking for fairness out of other people that may want to speak.
You want me to sit down?
I just asked if there was any objections.
We're gonna be allowed to, go up there after her though, right?
Absolutely.
I'm next, Arla.
But please do not bring up that.
Oh my God, because that makes you look bad?
Enough,
It's
Mr.
an-
Sherman, enough. You need
We
to be
can
quiet.
escort you out of
Okay.
here, Mr. Sherman, if you
Enough.
want.
That I'd love to see.
Oh.
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
there's been problems over the years of hiring a city manager. You know, and that, under charter, you're supposed to be able to have a knowledgeable and experienced.
I'm sorry,
individual.
I don't mean to interrupt. Can you please stop talking while we're?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just responding to Mr. Dunphy.
Would you please?
Would you?
Get him out of here.
I'm sorry, Sue, please continue. I apologize.
These are the issues I'm hearing out on the street, and no one is confronting you guys with it. No one is saying, this is why we're upset. This is why we want to change the government.
That's not necessarily true, by the way.
Well,
talking to
people
people.
I talked to, okay? I mean, I went around and Tony mentioned last meeting, about losing friendships. That's was directed to me. And,
No, just a lot of people in general.
you know, I have never said that Tony or Justin are bad people, but they don't belong on council and I haven't supported them at election time. Do I dislike them? Oh, no. But you guys have got to see and understand that why these, have you gone out and talked to people as to why they
Yes.
want this?
Yes, I have.
Good, good.
I spent 3 hours on my feet doing that last week. So,
That's,
yes.
I mean, I could go on if any of you want to talk to me afterwards, but, I really think we're going to be in a serious jam if this passes. And I think I said to somebody without realizing all of the legal stuff, that we were looking at a minimum of a year, and somebody in town who knows, has been on council in years past, you know, they think it could be even 2 years. What you're saying, and the thing is, the way the state will look at us as being disorganized, am I right? Yeah, being disorganized and not sure what, and the other thing is, I did some research and I think Taylor said that on the phone the other day. This has never happened. No one has ever gone from charter to statutory. And they have not, because charter is the newer form of government. And I believe, and I'd have to go back and research this, I believe the state even suggested it to us back in the mid or early 90s because we were having some of the financial issues and some issues. So I want you guys to understand what the issue is and think of yourselves, put yourselves in the situation where you've made some decisions and understand we need to work together. We need to fix this. And you are the ones that can fix it. Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Everybody.
Next, sir.
Yeah, my name's Gary Grant, and I live here on Fayette Street. My comments are mainly targeted to the city attorney, Jonathan Rowe. I brought a copy of it with me. He was just reading it. Officials warn of potential pitfalls of abolishing Nelsonville City Charter. It's a story in the Athens Independent. I've been in 3 different businesses in the last week since the last meeting: Speedway, Go-Mart, and Kroger's. And I have heard citizens' comments in there about going to the mayor form of government. And all of them, in every business, they said, if we do this, we're gonna lose our police and fire, we're gonna lose our city services. We'll go back to a village. And I got a comment question for the city attorney. He can answer later. I called the Secretary of State's office last week and asked them if there's any way that Nelsonville could refer back to a village. They said absolutely not until the next census is done. The Secretary of State said Nelson, 2-3 years ago, when Taylor did the recount, that the city of Nelsonville is a city. And it will not change until the next census, which is when, 2030? Okay, that's what they told me. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Are these rumors that I'm hearing in these businesses, are these scare tactics that are put out by certain individuals to get people to vote no on the ballot issue? And they talk about some of these scare tactics in this story.
Could I ask you who gave them the story? Was it?
Jonathan Rowe gave them the story. It's right here. I'll give it to you.
I never
Well, I'll
saw it.
just leave it here. That way anybody wants to read it, they can read it.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, and, the last question is, what you was talking about, Mr. Rowe, on the whole issue at the beginning of the meeting, until the appeals court decision comes out, this issue going clear to the Supreme Court is just speculation, right? It's not set in stone, it's speculation. And that's what I want everybody to know. It is speculation.
Thank you so much. Ma'am?
Stephanie Burley, Madison Street. I just haven't been here for a while, but I wanted to thank, code enforcement. I've seen he's been doing some good job doing what he's doing here. I just wanted to make it known that I appreciate it.
It's nice to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we're gonna close the comments and we'll have a second reading. Motion, please.
Madam President, do you want me to answer any questions of the code? I mean, it's up to you.
If you,
Go ahead.
I can't speak unless the council wants me to.
yeah, I mean, if you have,
Because
if you
my
have,
report's.
Yeah,
not
man.
public.
if you have answers in your book right now, sure.
So the question about city status, and I apologize, this is going to be confusing. It's really complicated. The basic answer is abolishing the charter does not in and of itself directly address the question, but it has downriver effects. Let me explain. So the preamble to the charter says Nelsonville shall be known as the city of Nelsonville. That's the law of the charter, that this is to be known as the city of Nelsonville. State law, and only state law, determines whether a municipality in Ohio is a city or a village. State law defines that breakpoint as 5,000 in population. If you're over 5,000, you're a city. If you're less than 5,000 at the most recent federal census, you're a village. So the next census is in 2030. I believe I might not get this exactly right, but After the 2020 census, I believe Nelsonville's federal census numbers were somewhere between 4,500 and 4,800. The state of Ohio has special procedures to appeal that to the state, not to the federal government, to the state government solely for the city status under Ohio law. Federally speaking, under federal law, Nelsonville has fewer than 5,000. That's as a matter of federal law. As a matter of state law, given that, as Mr. Sappington said at the meeting last week, this was unprecedented, but Nelsonville successfully appealed that to the state. And part of that appeal process was the state certifying that the federal census got Nelsonville's population incorrect. And if it had been done correctly, it was above 5,000, okay? But below the surface, this is important, but this is below the surface, the Secretary of State looked at the charter. I guess maybe I'm being a little speculative, but this is just how these work on the back end of the state. If he had not certified that, there would have been a conflict between state law saying that as a matter of law, Nelsonville is a village, and the charter, which said as a matter of charter law, it's the city of Nelsonville. Okay, the Secretary of State in the state of Ohio has no authority to change the charter. The people of Nelsonville and only the people of Nelsonville have that authority. So if after 2030, let's suppose, and unfortunately trends look like that's the case. I believe when I looked it up a couple weeks ago, the federal census estimates, these aren't official, these are just estimates, is that Nelsonville's down to 4,200. A gap of 800 is harder to clear on an appeal than 200 or 300. That's simple math. The problem is, let's say 2030 comes around, the federal census says, yes, Nelsonville's at 4,200. We appeal, it gets denied by the state. If the charter is still in place, as a matter of charter law, this will still be the city of Nelsonville. And the state can't change that. So, but if it's a statutory city, if it gets switched to a statutory city, then just as a matter of law, it will get downgraded to a village and there's nothing that can be done at that point. That's just how it works. Now, again, like I said, this is confusing and complicated. That's just sometimes what happens when you get into unprecedented situations. I wish it were just crystal clear and I could just give a crystal clear answer just so that we wouldn't be living in a
But
fog.
that's 5 years from now, right?
Right. So I guess the one thing I would encourage the city and the people of the city, encourage businesses and population to move, make that a moot point so that the federal census will hit above 5,000. You won't have to worry about this and you can keep your city status. That's what needs to be done, I think. Anyway, so that was just my answer to the question.
Okay, thank you all very much for your input. This is going to be a motion for a second reading on ordinance 8224.
An ordinance amending the 2024 appropriations ordinance. Whereas the 2024 appropriations need to be amended. Whereas appropriations of $66,790 into street construction fund number 200, line item number 200-150-80009 is necessary. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The 2024 appropriations ordinance is amended to appropriate from the unappropriated balance to the following funds. Appropriations in the sum of $66,790 from the unappropriated balance of the street construction fund number 200 to line item number 200-150-80009. The total unappropriated balance is decreased by said amount. The total appropriation in each respective fund mentioned above are increased by said amount. The city auditor is hereby authorized to submit changes to the city's certificate of resources pursuant to this ordinance to the Athens County Budget Commission. The ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption pursuant to section 4.11 of Nelsonville City Charter as the ordinance provides for appropriation for current expenses. Duly enacted by council on second reading the 14th day of October 2024.
Motion to accept,
Motion to adopt.
adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes. Vice President,
Yes, sir.
I know we have a lot of first readings, but I did notice that our guests for business and organizational comments came in.
I like your outfit better than this morning. John.
And he is in a Halloween costume.
It's
which-
Bowser. It's Bowser from Super Mario. Yeah. Yeah, we just got done with a trunk or treat at Trimble. I didn't have a chance to change my costume.
Would be able to take the time to allow him to speak before the
Absolutely.
clerk reads all the first readings.
Yes,
Excellent. Going me up there?
sure.
Fantastic.
We gotta see your costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's pretty good. We go all out. Yeah.
I like
It's better than last year when it's Princess Peach. So I think the Bowser was way better. So, thank you. Sorry I'm late. My name is John Rose and I'm running for Athens County Commissioner as an independent. So we got 22 days, but who's counting? A little bit about me. I moved to Athens County 20 years ago. I became a paramedic a decade ago and I served for Athens County EMS for a good long while. I left Athens County EMS in 2022. When I left, staffing was atrocious. We were getting mandated every third shift or so. And typical schedule for EMS is 24-hour shifts. So you work 24 hours on, you have 48 hours off. If somebody calls off, then they force you to work extra the next day, which is an additional 12 hours. So there were many, many times we were working 36 hours straight. I understand people need to, people need to work in ambulances, I get it. But there's a solution to that problem, and it's to pay people a living wage. When I stepped down in 2022, I made about $15 and some change an hour. As a full-time medic with a bunch of extra initials and blah, blah, blah behind my name. I'm not a slouch. I always took the extra classes, learning the extra stuff so I could know what I needed to know when it was most important. For contrast, I work at Donkey Coffee, uptown Athens, 2 mornings a week. I make more per hour as a barista than I did as a full-time charge medic. And things aren't much better now. So I'm fighting for the people who don't have a voice, for the people who need help. We unionized when I was with Athens County a couple years, when I first got hired in there, a couple years later, we unionized. And it was the most difficult contract negotiation that the OAPFF president who came down from Columbus ever negotiated. And it was just Athens County EMS. 60 some odd employees. I'm a small business owner. I have kids, thus the ridiculous getup. I own property out near Gloucester. I homeschool my kids. I sing in an 80s band. I'm part of the community. The reason that I'm running is we need to focus more on the county as a whole, as opposed to just the city of Athens. Now, I love the city of Athens. It's great. I love the things that they provide for us, but Athens County is 508 square miles. The city of Athens is 10. There's so much focus on that in the university that they forget about the rest of us. We're still the poorest county in the state of Ohio. 30.6% is the poverty rate. Trimble Township, where I live, poverty rate for children is 68%. 68% of the babies are below the federal poverty line. How have we allowed that to happen? It's a travesty. They're talking about building low-income housing. That's great, but low-income house now for a 2-bedroom is $265-ish thousand. I can't afford $265,000. It's just, people are struggling. We need to help. That's why I'm running. I love Athens County. I care about Athens County. If I didn't, I wouldn't have stuck around and tried to make this place my home. But it's getting harder and harder. When my kids grow up, I have a 9 and a 12-year-old. When they get old enough to get careers and buy houses and stuff, they're not going to be able to work here and live here at the same time. It's an impossibility. There are things that we can do to change it. There's some things that we can't do to change it. But my idea of what a commissioner needs to do is say, hey, what do you need? What do you want? And then just shut my mouth and listen. And doing that. We're we all live here, we all want to make this place the best that it can be, but our needs and our wants are they're just being disregarded. And it's insulting. So we're gonna fix it. One way or another, we're gonna fix it. So, the last time I was here, I passed out some material to you guys. Is it okay if I give you guys a couple handouts before? There's a website, johnroseforchange.org. It goes over kind of, more why I'm doing this, things that I've learned just from starting this campaign. Just crazy issues that are happening in the county that I had no idea about. And you wouldn't unless you heard about it. Heard about it from the person who it's affecting. It's sad and it's scary, and we just all need to come together and make Athens County the beautiful place that it is and it can be. So yeah, that's my spiel. Thank you for allowing me the time. Sorry about the get up.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys letting me come back. Sorry I had to sneak out the other day. On the flyer I'm gonna give you, there's an email on the bottom of it. Please reach out. If you know of anything like, hey, this is crazy, you should look into this. Anything from the sewer system or the sewer project. That's a nightmare. To the folks in New Marshfield who are now gonna be affected by the sewer project. To the fact that Athens County EMS last June was broke. They had to take a loan out to make payroll instead of grabbing from the general fund. The fact that Athens County EMS has to pay $187,000 a year for dispatching from a county agency. That's insane, and that comes from the EMS fund, because EMS fund is separate from the general fund. There's a lot of mismanagement. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be changed, and it can be changed. The commissioner's office is just refusing to do anything about it. So let's fix it together. We can all fix it. So yeah, I'm excited about the challenge. 22 days, we're gonna make it. So thank you again. Good seeing you guys. I will pass out some pamphlets and then I gotta go make some lunches for some kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know,
How was
I
your
have
truck or
trouble
treat, by the
voting
way?
for somebody, you know.
It's Bowser. If I sing Peaches from the Mario movie, would they sell it?
So here's the plus, it's not Charlie Atkins.
Say what?
It's not Charlie Atkins, so.
It's not Charlie, and that's the guy I'm running against.
Right, that's the
Is
big.
the one running?
No, it's Charlie and Chris.
Chris is running.
Chris is running, but he's running on the post. So it's just me versus Charlie. We had a public forum set up by the League of Voters. You already got my stuff? How you want to do it?
Actually gotta sign up for my house.
Oh, yeah. That's why I recognize your beautiful face. Appreciate
How
you.
did you decide
Oops, sorry.
who to run against?
Chris means well. All of our contract negotiations when I was with Athens County EMS, Chris listened to us and tried to compromise and come up with a common ground that worked for everybody. Charlie was bullheaded and he was just a bully. And anything but his way or the highway. And I don't respect that. I understand having opinions and being opinionated, but when it comes to people's livelihoods, like the fact that my kids could still qualify for food stamps, we still qualify for Medicaid, even though I was working 24/48, 120 hours of pay, we were still that far below the federal poverty line. And that was completely dictated by what the commissioners thought we were worth. It's just not right. I mean, right is right. I'm not a slouch. I mean, I worked my tail off. Jonathan just saw me this morning working at the coffee shop. I work at the coffee shop again today. I run a paintball park for crazy all weekend. I
Excuse me,
still
sir.
work at least
I'm
24 hours.
sorry, but we gotta
Oh, I'm
get
so
back to
sorry.
business.
Yeah. So I'll shut up. I'm long-winded. My wife says I can talk to a brick wall for a half hour. Thank you.
My husband would say that too.
Thank you guys. once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can leave it open.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna have the first reading for ordinance 8424.
Point,
Yes, sir.
these ordinances I have prepared as emergency measures, but this is before I was told what, that three numbers would be big, absent. Per the charter, 5 votes are required to make, a declaration of emergency, so these all have to have a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll introduce this.
Thank you. An ordinance establishing a schedule of court costs for Nelsonville Mayor's Court and repealing ordinance 46-24. Whereas council has established Nelsonville Mayor's Court to hear such cases as fall within the jurisdiction of Ohio law for a mayor's court for the city of Nelsonville. Whereas council had by ordinance 46-24 previously set a schedule of court costs for the Nelsonville Mayor's Court. Whereas the chief of the Nelsonville Police Department has recommended that the schedule of court costs be adjusted. Whereas there is a need for council to establish a revised and updated schedule for court costs for Nelsonville Mayor's Court. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The schedule of court costs for Nelsonville Mayor's Court as set forth in Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference is hereby adopted by council. The Mayor's Court clerk shall make the schedule of court costs available to any person who requests a copy. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions taken relative to the adoption of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of Nelsonville City Council, and that all deliberations of council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements. Ordinance 46-24 is hereby repealed. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly enacted by council on second reading. It is the 28th day of October 2024.
Ordinance, 8524. Would someone?
I'll introduce it.
An ordinance establishing a schedule of fines for Nelsonville Mayor's Court and repealing ordinance 81-24. Whereas council has established Nelsonville Mayor's Court to hear such cases as fall within the jurisdiction under Ohio law for a mayor's court for the city of Nelsonville. Whereas council had by ordinance 81-24 previously set a schedule of fines for Nelsonville Mayor's Court. Whereas the chief of the Nelsonville Police Department has recommended that the fines in the schedule of fines be adjusted to improve the administration of Nelsonville Mayor's Court. Whereas there is a need for council to establish a revised and updated schedule for fines for Nelsonville Mayor's Court. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The schedule of fines for Nelsonville Mayor's Court as set forth in Exhibit A is hereby adopted by council. The mayor's court clerk shall make the schedule of fines available to any person who requests a copy. Council hereby finds and determines that all actions taken relative to the adoption of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of the Nelsonville City Council, and that all deliberations of council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements. This ordinance shall not be construed to amend any law or fine previously enacted by separate ordinance of council, nor shall any part of this ordinance be construed as impairing or limiting council's authority to amend any law or fine for any offense prohibited by law. Ordinance 81-24 is hereby repealed in its entirety. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly enacted by council on second reading the 28th day of October 2024.
I'll just say all right.
Oh, okay. Resolution 2313. If someone would introduce.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. A resolution authorizing the city to enter into a release of claims with York Township for resurfacing project of Bessemer Road. Whereas a recent Nelsonville waterline project necessitated resurfacing of Bessemer Road. Whereas York Township has indicated its intention to pursue legal recourse to ensure that the city pays for half the cost of resurfacing the project. Whereas council has previously appropriated funds for the city's half of the cost of the resurfacing project by ordinance 82-24. Whereas there is a need for council to authorize the city to enter into an agreement and release of claims with York Township. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to execute any and all agreements necessary with York Township to release claims related to the costs of the Bessemer Road resurfacing project. City council hereby finds that this ordinance was adopted in a meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure to expedite the highway project and to promote highway safety, and it shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage and approval. Otherwise, it shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earlier period allowed by law. Duly adopted by council on first reading the 14th day of October 2024.
Have we received
The
the,
28th. Not the 14th, the 28th.
this is a resolution.
No,
That's resolution, okay, I apologize.
Have we received the, actual amounts of this project yet? from them?
Yeah. What was the first appropriation ordinance?
Yeah.
It was the $66,790.
Is
And,
that our half?
Yes.
and have we seen that is half?
Okay. Resolution 2314, if someone would introduce.
Are we gonna adopt this resolution?
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, resolutions are one.
Okay. Motion to adopt.
I'm sorry, before we do that, do we need to discuss this further?
If council wants,
And do we need to discuss any of this in executive potential litigation that they're obviously?
I can certainly give a more full report to council in executive session. I can't say anything other than what's written.
Then, well, we already have a motion. Do we have a motion on the table yet? Or no.
Motion to adopt, yeah.
Was there a second on that?
Not yet.
Okay, so I would actually motion maybe to table this and discuss an executive.
I'll second that.
One question before we vote, if possible. Is this the best legal recourse for the city?
I think it is. But I can explain why in executive. I can't explain why in public right now.
I mean,
It's fine. If you want to discuss it, then I have no problem with that. I'll second that motion.
it's already done.
Okay.
Is there any going comments?
Yeah,
We'll need to have the vote on the
Motion
table.
on the table.
Okay,
We're voting on the table motion. Ms. Sonic,
yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Resolution 2314, if someone would introduce.
I'll introduce it.
A resolution authorizing the city to enter into agreements with the Ohio Department of Transportation for a guardrail replacement project in the city of Nelsonville. Whereas there is a need for a guardrail replacement project in the city of Nelsonville on the bridge on State Route 278, 2.923 over the Hocking River, ODOT file number 05033347. Whereas federal and state funds are available to help defray costs associated with the resurfacing project. Whereas there needs to be authorization granted by a council for the city to sign an agreement for the project and to give consent to ODOT for the guardrail replacement project. Now therefore be resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. Council hereby adopts the preliminary legislation attached hereto and incorporated by reference as Exhibit A. Council clerk shall complete the certificate of copy with seal and shall return the same to ODOT. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to execute any and all agreements necessary to develop plans for and to complete the project. Nothing in this resolution shall be construed as an appropriation of any funds of the city for the guardrail replacement project. State of Ohio shall assume and bear 100% of all costs of the guardrail replacement project. City Council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure to expedite the highway project and to promote highway safety, and it shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage and approval. Otherwise, it shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period allowed by law, duly enacted by council on first reading, 14th day of October, 2024.
Motion.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes. Resolution 2315, someone please introduce.
I'll introduce.
A resolution authorizing the city to enter into agreements with W.W. Williams for continued generator maintenance service at City Hall and Lake Hope Drive.
Yeah.
I think so. It's mimicking their shorthand description of their agreements.
Okay,
So that's why it is abbreviated.
whereas W.W. Williams is willing to provide such service and is suitable to provide such service. Whereas there needs to be authorization granted by council for the city to sign agreements with W.W. Williams for such service. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief is hereby authorized to execute the service proposal agreements attached hereto as Exhibit A, City Hall, and Exhibit B, Lake Hope, with W.W. Williams for continued generator maintenance service. Council shall by separate legislation provide for any appropriations of funds. City Council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in meetings open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law. Duly adopted by council on first reading, 14th day of October, 2024.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
I got a question. Are these the only people that we've contacted for generator maintenance? Or are they the ones that give us the generator, or how we come about with these guys?
I don't know, I'll do by Sean at the sewer plant, because the primary consumer of generators here is the sewer plant.
Because there's more than one outfit that'll do this. And I just wondered if we went out and got any bids or anything, because I'm pretty sure that there's a few that'll come under their prices.
Yeah, that I don't know. These came from the sewer plant operators.
And if council wants to,
I would table this just to make sure it's underneath the bid requirements for the state of Ohio.
it is under the bid requirements, but.
It is?
It is.
Okay, well, I don't have a problem approving it if it's under the bid requirements.
I'm just saying, some of the prices on this that, in my past experience, to me, they're a little high.
Okay. Is when does the contract end? When does it up?
I don't know. Off the top of my head.
Okay.
Do we have a contract? That's what I was wondering. Is it under contract now, or is that what we're doing is renewing it?
We were previously under contract for the generators we had here at City Hall. And then once the new sewer plant came online, we'd be under contract to cover those ones as well.
Okay, well, I'm saying, well, do we check into, we just automatically transferred the, okay, you wouldn't hear that. So, okay. But I'd like to check into it a little bit more, because I'm pretty sure the prices I've seen here is a little high.
Well, we've got, a motion and a second. We can vote it down and we can vote to table it if you'd like. Want to do that?
That's what I'd like to do is
That way, do we have time to look into it before?
I think the city does.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as we got time and we're not, we can do a resolution at the next meeting.
Okay.
Motion to table.
I think we need to.
Well, the motion to table will take precedence.
Will it? Okay.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Did Nathan look at it?
Yeah, Dancy made it.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Resolution 2316, if someone would introduce.
I'll introduce it.
A resolution adopting a service policy for the city of Nelsonville. Whereas a reserve provides protection from risk related to revenue shortfalls, such as during recessions or extreme events like state budget cuts or natural disasters. Whereas the city is in need of a reserve policy to govern the city's reserve. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. City council hereby adopts the city of Nelsonville reserve policy attached hereto as Exhibit A. City council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in meetings open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly adopted by council on first reading the 14th day of October 2024.
Is this something that Taylor put together?
Yeah, this is what he recommended from the finance committee, based on his work with the state auditors, that the city didn't have a reserve policy in place. And this is what his recommendation was.
Okay, where's your go?
So moved.
Can I ask a question? You're not asking for public comments on any of these?
There's not.
No?
I'm sorry. Do you have a comment?
I really just kind of a question that why do we need a reserve and how is the money going to go into the reserve fund? I'm assuming he's setting up a separate fund.
No, it's not that at all, actually. It's about maintaining a certain amount of reserve for the city. And then if they fall below that reserve amount, they have to have a plan on building the reserve back.
Gotcha.
Like Athens, they did that and they got in trouble.
Okay, so motion to adopt. So moved. Second. Call roll.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Resolution 2317, would someone please?
I'll introduce it.
Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the city to enter into an engagement of local government services of the Auditor of State's Office for routine services to be provided by the city. Whereas there is a need for the city to enter into an engagement letter with the local government services of the Auditor of State's Office for the local government services to compile from the city's annual financial statements and therefrom to prepare statements and standards for accounting and review services for the city. Whereas this arrangement is the best option for the city to be able to produce its financials for audit through for the Auditor of State's Office as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. City Council hereby authorizes the city to engage the local government services of the Auditor of State's Office for the local government services to compile from the city's annual financial statements and therefrom to prepare statements on standards for accounting and review services for the city. The city manager, acting city manager, police chief, and/or city auditor are hereby authorized to execute any and all agreements necessary to enter into the engagement arrangement with the local government services of the Auditor of State's Office for preparing statements on standards for accounting and review services for the city, including the engagement letter attached hereto as Exhibit A. City Council hereby finds that this resolution was adopted in meetings open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly adopted by council on first reading on this 14th day of October 2024.
Council, any comments? Ladies and gentlemen, any comments?
Of course. Is this the annual letter that we always sign with the state? You have to sign that letter in order, before they come in for the audit. Is that what this is?
That's my understanding, but I
Okay,
would like.
we're not asking them for special services.
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
That's my understanding from Mr. Sapp. This is all the standard.
It sounds like it is, but I want to make sure
No, I
that,
appreciate the question.
yeah.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Resolution 2318, if someone please.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. A resolution authorizing the city to engage Career Connections to provide services relating to the hiring and employment of a part-time administrative assistant for the city. Whereas the city is in need of a part-time administrative assistant to perform administrative duties for the city. Whereas the part-time administrative assistant should meet high standards of professionalism in order to appropriately provide administrative service to the city. Whereas the city wishes to engage Career Connections to provide service to the city relating to the hiring and employment of a part-time administrative assistant in accordance with the high standards required for the position. Whereas in its annual staffing ordinance, council has previously provided for the position of a part-time administrative assistant for the city. Whereas Career Connections is willing to provide such services. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Nelsonville, Athens County, Ohio as follows. The city manager, acting city manager, and/or police chief shall be and hereby are authorized to engage in services of Career Connections to hire and employ a part-time administrative assistant for the city at a rate of pay between $18 and $20 per hour. Career Connections shall be responsible to directly pay the part-time administrative assistant, including matching taxes and/or other employee costs, subject to reimbursement by the city upon Career Connections invoicing of the city for its services rendered to the city. The part-time administrative assistant shall have and shall perform such duties as required by the city manager or provided by law. Failure of the part-time administrative assistant to fulfill such duties may result in immediate termination of employment. Council shall, by separate legislation, provide for any appropriations of funds as may be necessary. City Council finds this resolution was adopted in meeting open to the public as required by applicable law. This resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest time permitted by law, duly enacted by council on first reading the 14th day of October 2024.
Council comments?
This is nothing new. This was something that was in the staffing ordinance that has been asked for a while, someone to at least answer the phone and do secretarial duties or, basic stuff. And we've been lacking that for quite a while.
Any comments from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
From what I've heard about Career Connections, this would be a good chance to use some really good students for us and for them both. It sounds like a plus plus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Sonic.
Yes.
Madam Vice President, just a quick question, since we have the one table resolution, is it council's pleasure to amend the agenda to go into executive now so that there will be time to come back to?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Do you?
I'll move to amend the agenda to go into executive session. And then, that way we have time to adopt.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Taylor. Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Sonic.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
There are three items that I would like to discuss with council in executive session. One is the pending litigations. Second is the city attorney contract, and the third is compensation of the council clerk.
Okay.
along with this legislation, right?
Correct, because this also relates to,
Independent.
litigation.
Under Ohio Revised Code 121.22 for personal and legal matters, we are going into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
You're going to invite anybody in?
Need to invite Mr. Robin.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
would also suggest Mr. Tolliver as well,
Probably, yeah.
but that's up to the pleasure.
I would agree.
No problem.
Inviting in Mr. Tolliver and Mr. Rowe.
Connie, did you make the motion? Is there a second?
Mr. Taylor, I believe seconded it. Correct, second.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
And the time is 8:20.
Calling this session back into session at 9:10. And I need,
I'll motion.
Okay,
Go back
thank
into
you.
regular session. Yep.
thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes. Madam Vice President, I'd like to untable Resolution 2313.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. Second.
Second.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
And that was.
2313, which was read.
It was read, so we don't need to read it again.
A motion, I make a motion to adopt resolution 2313.
Second.
Roll call.
Taylor,
I second. Yep. Yes.
yeah. Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes. All right.
Oh, goodness. City managers report, sir?
Yeah, so the phase 4 water project's kicking off. It actually started today. So you see D.V. Weber working on some of those projects, transitioning to off the other ongoing projects. They've been doing great work. They've been contracting in the city for several years now, and we're glad we're able to retain them. We have a new guardrail project coming up. ODOT will be replacing the guardrail on the bridge here by the VFW. That's at no cost to the city. It's completely funded by them. That'll probably be starting next spring, I believe. And then I've reached out with Career Connections so we can get the ball rolling on getting an administrative assistant brought in. And now that we have that legislation in place, they should be able to send some candidates our way.
Good deal. Now, will you be doing the interview?
Yeah, so I get to do the kind of secondary interview.
Okay.
Career Connections puts together kind of a draft resume for them. They have them answer a questionnaire. They run them through a skills test and also identify some of their strengths and weaknesses too. And it's all based on a kind of a guide that we give them on the kind of candidate we're looking for.
So time?
It
You have-
depends, just on the candidates. We want to make sure we hire the right person.
Okay, okay, so there's no time limitation as to how long the interviews will last?
Oh, I haven't set time. I haven't come up with a.
Okay,
interview yet.
okay, all right. Anything else, sir?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Good of the order. I'll start, not for any good reason, but I hope the citizens of Nelsonville understand what is on the ballot in regards to the city. I'm sorry, I got stuttering here. It cancels the city charter. I'm not telling you which way to vote. I'm telling you, please think about it. read it carefully, understand what it says. So Corey, do you have anything, sir?
We've got Halloween coming up. I'm hoping people, are safe and have a good time and, get out there and dress up and have some fun, visit the neighborhoods. So just be safe. I think that's all I have for this evening.
Okay.
I have nothing this time.
Oh, okay. Just to set a few things, research them if you'd like, because the information is out there. So if we go back to the statutory form of government, well, the first thing that needs to has to happen is all of about 3,000 or so ordinances have to be reviewed by a city attorney or by an attorney to make sure they comply with Ohio Revised Code. Now, the going rate for an attorney in that function is $150 to $300 an hour. Jonathan, am I pretty close to that? Maybe more, which will be an immense bill. An immense bill. That is just one of many. And there has been so much misdirection out there. I fear that the city will go back to a village. I fear that in the first thing when the money that is spent to go back to a statutory form of government, I feel will break this city. This is not a scare tactic. The figures are out there. And the first thing that always goes whenever a city is financially in ruins is usually either the police department or the fire department. And that's not a scare tactic, that's facts. Okay, you can research this. Don't believe what you're told. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm just asking you to research your decision very carefully. Because for 26 years, there's been a charade going on in this town by some individuals. And there has been chaos and mayhem, like I've said before. It continues to this day. Some people are just born not to tell the truth. It's just the way they are. There's nothing that we can do about that. But you as a community, I know that you've been through a lot, but I think you really need to look at the facts at hand, not rumors. Really look at it. Ask the hard questions. See what you want. Look for the truth. Just don't take someone's word. Don't take my word. Look for the truth. And you know what? If it goes for the mayoral form of government, if it passes, then I honestly say with my whole heart, there'll probably be 3 candidates to vote for it. Scott Frank for mayor, Corey Taylor for mayor, or Nancy Sonic for mayor. That'd be your choices that I would say. So with that, I bid you adieu. Thank you.
And with that, I would like to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Sonic,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.